You are listening to episode 62 of the Overthinker's Guide to Joy. This is the one where I'm going to teach you how to stop catastrophizing. Let's dive in. This is a podcast for overthinkers, overdoers, and overachievers who are tired of feeling overanxious and just want to feel better. I'm your host, certified life coach, Jackie DeCrenis. Hey there, and welcome back. So today I want to talk about a really common habit that I see in my practice with a number of my clients, but also, admittedly, something that I have been guilty of throughout my life. And that is the unconscious practice of catastrophizing. And what does that mean? Catastrophizing is basically just taking a thought or a circumstance and blowing it up to catastrophic proportions. So it's like driving along in your car and thinking, oh my God, what if I get in an accident? If I get in an accident, I'll be late for work. And if I'm late for work, I'll get fired. And if I get fired, I'll lose my house. And if I lose my house, I'll lose my marriage. And if I lose my marriage, no one will love me. And then I'll be homeless and destitute and my car will be in the shop and my career will be over. That's catastrophizing. But it doesn't even take something that dramatic to create catastrophizing thoughts in your brain. Catastrophizing can happen when you're actually in the middle of enjoying yourself. Like maybe you're taking a great hot shower and really enjoying like the water beating on your skin and the smell of the fresh soap, and you're having time alone and everything is really great. And all of a sudden you start thinking about, oh, I didn't exercise today and I need to exercise. But if I exercise, I'll have to take another shower and then I'll be too late going to bed. And then if I don't get enough rest, I'll oversleep tomorrow. And then if I oversleep, I'll miss my deadline. And if I miss my deadline, then I'll lose a client. And if I lose a client, then I'll become broke. And again, it just goes from something very simple to something catastrophic. So the problem is, once we've developed a habit like catastrophizing, it's very easy for our brain to go there whenever we're feeling anxious or bored or exhausted or hungry. Our neural pathways will take a familiar route, meaning if it's used to generating anxious thoughts or scary thoughts or defensive thoughts, that's a habit. So that's a neural habit. And then what will happen is in our downtime, when we're not being conscious or mindful, we just start going to that lowest common denominator type thinking. We start catastrophizing. So I was talking with a client recently about how often he catastrophizes a situation, particularly when he's feeling anxious or overwhelmed. And most often it comes from a place of being overwhelmed at work, being overworked, or feeling like he's beyond his scope of understanding materials for his job. And he says that his brain just goes to dark places. And so even before he sits down to do the work, he's already thought about failing. He's already thought, what if I don't understand it? What if I can't assimilate it? What if I can't regurgitate it? What if I can't explain it in a better way to my team? And that's where the catastrophizing begins. And so then the anxiety shows up in his body, and then he feels nervous, distracted. He stops being present. So even if he's enjoying himself, like say watching a show on Netflix or taking a walk with his girlfriend, now all of a sudden he's not enjoying himself because his mind has gone off to this dark place. So how do we corral it back? How do we get it back from once that habit begins, that habit of negative thinking, that habit of catastrophizing? Well, there's a number of ways actually. So I always like to check in with what I refer to as my homework. Am I hydrated? Have I observed my levels? Meaning, have I eaten recently something healthy, something proteinated, or do I need sleep? So that's the observe your level. That's the O. The M is meditation. Have I meditated today? Do I need another meditation? And the fourth one is exercise. Have I moved my body today? All of those, meditation, exercise, hydration, eating healthy, and sleeping, are all great antidotes to catastrophizing. But sometimes we can't just leave our jobs and go exercise, or we've just come back from lunch, so we know we're satiated. We've just had a glass of water. We already did our meditation, and we're still feeling that anxiety. We're still going to that dark place. So what's a trick that you can do when you're not able to physically move your body or grab a glass of water or have a quick meditation? One of the things you can do is you can look at the thought that is coming up for you. And you can ask yourself, is this a productive thought? Like, is there something I can actually do right now about this catastrophic thinking? Or is it just my mind indulging an old neural pathway, an old negative habit? Chances are it's probably something that you can't control. It's probably bigger than you. But if it's not something constructive like, oh, I got to remember to buy my sister a birthday gift, or I've got to remember to return that phone call to my colleague, that's fine. By all means, write that down, if you're in the middle of something, and make a note of it or put it on your phone, whatever. Get it off your plate so it's not haunting you. But if it's that catastrophic thinking or that negative thinking or that chain reaction of if this happens, then this will happen, then this will happen, and then that disaster will happen and I'll never recover, just simply invite that thought to be put on a shelf. Like visually imagine either putting it in the trash can in your computer, like how you drag things to the trash can. Imagine putting it in your waste paper basket. Imagine throwing it out the window if you're driving on the freeway. But literally imagine taking that thought, boxing it up, and saying, not now, thought. That thought is not serving me. And then come back to something very simple, like your breath. Take a deep breath. Pause. Inhale. Hold it for a beat. And then exhale. Sometimes just returning to your breath, just your breathing, can refocus your brain to what's in front of you. Or if you're outside, like let's say you're taking a walk, look around, pay attention, find something yellow, a yellow flower, a yellow bird, a yellow sign, or look for something green, like a leaf, a blade of grass, or a car. Maybe notice if the sun is shining, or if there's something glistening in a snowbank. Like whatever time of year or wherever you live, find something beautiful. Find something to focus on that brings you joy or brings you light. So again, it's about refocusing the brain and not indulging that negative thought loop, not going down that rabbit hole of darkness. Because what's happened is, again, your body or your mind is just simply tired, or it's having some anxiety about something else. And so if you can't do anything about it right then you have to invite that thought to leave. And you have to refocus on what is in front of you. So that goes back to the issue of being present. And I can't tell you how many times when my kids were little and I was so anxious about like not being at work or all the scripts I had to read or all the phone calls I had to make or emails I had to respond to, I was always somewhere else. And what I needed to do was refocus on what was in front of me, whether that was their soccer game or their taekwondo lesson or their gleeful little messy faces when I would pick them up after school, and just be present for that moment. And then if there was something I needed to do, then I needed to do that. I needed to make a phone call or I needed to send an email, but I didn't have to necessarily do it in that second. I just needed to make a note to remind myself to do it so that I could get back to the present. So ask yourself this: where are you robbing yourself from a present moment and going down that catastrophizing rabbit hole? And then check in with your body. What does your body need? So ask yourself those questions. Am I hungry? Legitimately hungry, not just I need sugar, but like, have I eaten? Am I hydrated? Do I need to take a walk? Can I take a walk? Can I move my body? Or do I need to spend a moment just taking a deep breath? Now, another practice that's really good for resetting the mind, besides asking that thought to leave, imagining that thought to just fly out the window or put on a shelf or in the closet for now, is the permission to allow that thought to be entertained later if it's a productive one. Like if you really do need to think about something, just say, I'm going to pick that thought up later today and see if it still matters. Like schedule a time. Say, okay, I want time to obsess about that. Maybe you don't. But inviting it to have a place at the table later can sometimes help with rewiring those thoughts. And then the last thing that's really powerful, and I've done an entire episode on this, is journaling. And people get really hung up on journaling because people think that journaling has to be much more structured than it actually is. And journaling does not mean you have to have a beautiful diary. It does not mean you have to have a special book. It does not mean that you need to have pretty handwriting or even a special pen. Journaling is literally just taking a piece of paper or a computer or your phone and writing down your thoughts. And not worrying about punctuation or grammar or structure or even the order of the thoughts. It's just getting them out. It's just getting the scary, dark thoughts or laundry list of things or fears or overwhelm on a piece of paper. Because sometimes when we do that, we realize there's really just one or two things that you have any control over anyway. You may have seen a bunch of stuff on social media or on the news, or you saw a text, or you saw an email, and all this different stuff got into your brain and triggered you. And you don't even really know what you're upset about, but most of the stuff is not within your control anyway. So sometimes taking a moment, and it can be like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, just to list it all, just to put it all down on paper and get it out, and then circle the one or two things that are really bothering you, and ask yourself this question. Is there anything you can do about it? Is that within your control? And if so, what's one tiny little step to fixing it or helping it or getting it off your plate? One step. Not how do I conquer the mountain? Not how do I get it all fixed at once? What's one step? So it may have been you had an argument with a friend and you just need to call them. You need to reach out. You need to be brave and just say, hey, I want to talk. Or you may have to plan a big event and you have no idea where to begin. Well, start with what day do you want to do the event? And if you know the day, what time? And if you know what time, hey, you're already ahead of the curve. So now maybe it's the guest list. Start with the guest list. Or maybe start with the location. So see what I mean? Breaking it down so it's not just this big daunting thing, and just doing one action item to make you feel like you're moving forward instead of just letting it swirl around in your brain. But by getting those things down on paper, by seeing what those things are that are nagging you, that is really powerful, because what you're going to find is it's probably only a couple of things within your circle of control. And then it's just identifying a baby step to move forward. And all of these things are all steps to managing a mind that loves to catastrophize. Catastrophizing is one of those weapons that robs you from being present. And when you're robbed from being present, you're robbed from being mindful, and you're robbed from the blessing of calming yourself down. Because when your mind is elsewhere, and when you're distracted, and when you're anxious, and you're worrying about something that you're not doing, all you're doing is taking away the joy of the very moment that you're in. So just to recap, if you are prone to catastrophizing, you have to stop and look at that thought and say, is this thought productive? And if not, I want you to imagine putting it in a box or rolling down the window and letting it fly away. Put it on a shelf or schedule another time to think about what you need to think about in this situation. Or check in with your body, check in with your mind, see how you can take care of yourself to distract your brain from the unproductive catastrophizing mode. And then last, take out a piece of paper and write down all your negative thoughts. Get them out of your head and see which ones you can take a step towards solving today, right now, so you can start feeling better. All right, friends, that's what I have for you this week. I hope you're having a fantastic week, and I look forward to talking to you next time. Bye for now. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Overthinker's Guide to Joy. If you're enjoying these episodes, please subscribe or follow this podcast so you can always be in the know when the next episode drops. If you would like to learn more about working with me as a coach, you can connect with me through my website at jackiedegrenis.com. That's JACKIEDECRINIS.com.